Oh, yeah. I forgot to rejoice in the fact that we were the second best place to pray. And of course, we would say Bidwell Park is the best place to pray. Nature, wonderful, beautiful. And if you haven't been in the park, I invite you to be there. It's just to take the walk and take in the fall colors is amazing. So as I mentioned, the title for today is The Heart of Service. And we are reading the book Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza, which if you were here for the healing meditation, I really want to appreciate Crystal doing that because, of course, if you read the book, you have to read and then do the meditation and then read and do the meditation. So it's wonderful to have that. And again, what came to me even in the meditation was, I could pretend that I have a laser light right here on my forehead. And wherever I focus my attention is where my energy goes. And then even in thinking about today, the quantum theory, where when you observe something, it can change from a wave to a particle. That's what's really happening as we focus our attention. I love Mother Earth. I am holy, holy, holy. And even regarding our body and health, regarding our relationships, where we focus and surround that circumstance or situation with the truth, capital T, love, light, power, peace, beauty, joy, we are making change. Because how we think is how we change our lives. When I started thinking about the heart of service, my grandmother was like 80 years old, maybe even 85. And she got California State Senior Citizen of the Year because at the age of 80, she was delivering Meals on Wheels to people who were 60, 70. So my family knows and does service. And my mother to this day, she's 81. And when my sister passed away as a chiropractor at the age of 39, my mom worked for her. And there were some special people that my sister served, even though they couldn't afford service. And my mom, till this day, will take a whole day to drive over to somebody's house, pick them up, take them out to lunch, take them shopping, and take them home. So I've been raised in a family that doesn't just talk about service, but are actually models of service. And so today, as we honor our new practitioners and staff ministers, really the focus is on the heart of service. And I know that this community would not be here today after COVID if it weren't for all of you being willing to serve one another. And I want to make sure, again, to thank you for that. It's been a wonderful demonstration of this community and its network. So as we're here today to celebrate, honor, and recognize the expansion of our ministry, while we were able to undo this and not do this during COVID, it's a special day to be doing all of this together. And as I said earlier, the expansion of our ministry is really an expansion of the consciousness, of the kindness, of being and reflecting and aligning ourselves to our truer nature once we know what that truer nature is. Now, all practitioners have been trained through the study of science of mind, our philosophy. And science of mind is the art and science and skill of spiritual mind treatment, our form of affirmative prayer. Licensed practitioners have spent countless hours of study. They've undergone training and testing to become skilled in compassionate listening, intuitive awareness of core beliefs you may not even realize that you hold that cause that laser focus to look for things that may not be true, but again, you may have been told when you were younger or discovered in your own life a particular pattern of belief that when you're focusing on something, you're bringing that belief into matter. And when you go back to truth with a capital T and realign your core belief, you will actually see things change in your life. They are also trained and skilled in the use of spiritual mind treatment. They do regular spiritual practices to expand their consciousness and their healing presence, to reveal the wholeness and truth of all life in your life. And how can they do that for you? What's known in one place is known everywhere. That is the omnipresence of God, of Spirit, universal source, whatever you want to call it. And because what truth is known in one place, and we are truly all one, it is known right where you are. So when you think about it, practitioners, all of you, I know many of you have taken the Science of Mind classes. You have to take about 2 years worth or more of classes, and then you can take practitioner training, which is another 2 years of study. And not just listening to Science of Mind, as in what we do on Sundays, but literally embodying and embracing those principles in their lives. Practitioners demonstrate the change that can happen by taking practitioner training and watching their own life improve. And we will also be installing ministers today. And so for the ministers, they have another 2 years of ministerial training. So, technically those that are practitioners have used a minimum of 4 years of implementing the spiritual mind treatment and Science of Mind principles in their life. So when you meet with a practitioner, again, they are our core of our ministry, and they don't give you advice. What they do is they listen carefully. And they ask questions. They then pray with you and work with you to understand and apply spiritual principles to the circumstances that you wish to change. Practitioners are not paid by this center. They do charge a fee for working one-on-one, usually for an hour, but do not let that get in your way. If you don't have the money, ask for a practitioner for prayer anyway. And they will know the truth for you about the abundance and will do the work with you anyway. So I mentioned also that each practitioner serves at least 1 month, practitioner of the month. Anybody can call the center at any time, and a practitioner will be available for anybody who needs that. All right, so what I want to do is I'm going to introduce each of the practitioners and give a little background so you have a sense about who they are. And then they will be sharing with you the answer to a question, which was, what does it mean to be of service to our spiritual community? So, of course, they didn't really like that they were going to be surprised, but I'm going to ask Amy to come up first. Amy Roberts. Yay. So I'll have you stand here next to me, Amy. Amy Roberts had parents who were in religious science, Science of Mind. I know that's not highly common. Amy started classes with me. Well, you probably took classes before me, but we had lots of classes together. Took classes when?
11 years.
11 years. And that's because you're a single mom and you got through college. There was a lot, but you continued to pursue. Ask lots of questions. She's good at that. It was fun to have the classes. This is when we sold the California Lakeside Pavilion and had classes on mangrove. And always inquisitive, always looking to see different perspectives on what was being offered. Again, finished her degree while taking, I know the practitioner classes became available, and you were already squeezed as a college student trying to finish your last semester, but you weren't going to pass up the opportunity to take practitioner classes. Amy serves on our stewardship council. She has done lots of creative projects. Right now she's working with Crystal to help us Now that we've done our membership drive, we'll be printing a directory. And Amy is crafty in all kinds of ways. And importantly, where she is focusing her attention right now is she leads a breast cancer group. And that's a very special way to take what you know about who you truly are and sharing that with others. It's a very special leadership for you to take. And I'm sure there's lots of other things, wonderful things that I'd love to say about you, but tell me, what does it mean to be of service to our spiritual community?
Thank you. What does it mean to be of service? I'm going to go a little off script from that question and tell you a little bit about what it means to use the service of a practitioner.
A little bit closer with the mic. There you go.
Now I can hear myself. A while back, I had a conversation with Reverend Andy, and he said to me, I believe some of us are here to walk with others. And it was the permission my heart needed to hear, because I've always felt that. So thank you, Reverend Andy. And in the last 3 weeks, my family has experienced a lot of human experiences. 3 weeks ago, we lost one of our younger members to an unexpected death. A few members have been diagnosed with medical issues and treatment plans, which you never want to hear. And at home, I still have 2 teenage boys that daily bring me experiences I didn't know I needed to have. And I'm grateful for that. And I know that with this practice and with the science of mind philosophy and religious science tools and spiritual principles, that they always take you back to that place of peace beyond all understanding, where life is not just tolerable, but it's beautiful. And in the last 3 weeks, I've used a few practitioners, and they have walked with me. And that's one of my favorite things about service, is being allowed to walk with someone through their journey. So please use us. It's an honor to walk with you.
Beautiful. Thank you. We'll have you take yours. Okay. Julie Wilkinson Fisher. Will you please come forward? Yay! Julie is another creative soul. She came to us from CSL Lake Oswego. She actually worked there as well as took classes there. Then moved here to Chico, partially because the CSL was here. And has joined us, and we are so blessed to have her. When the COVID experience first happened, long before we remembered, knew what masks were going to be about, she began sewing masks. And she continued to sew masks, invited a team to help, and then donated the funds to the center. She has worked with Sherry Line Coyle in the bookstore to give it a nice new facelift. She leads with Kat Llewellyn, who I'll introduce in a minute, on Thank God It's Friday Walks in the Park. And again, we are just very gifted to have her essence, her presence, and really honor having you join us as a practitioner. So, what does it mean to be of service to our spiritual center?
When I think of being in service, I think of connection, and I think of community. And so when I'm in service, whether it's right here at CSL in our building, with this community, out in the greater Chico community, which I've done, had some fun stuff doing, or whether it's just for the planet and the greater sense of humanity. What it means to me is it means connection, it means community, always. And when I am connected and in service, I feel the wholeness and the oneness of what we believe we are, that everyone's connected. We're all in this together. And every time, without exception, when I'm in service, I am uplifted myself. I come away uplifted, better than I was before, and happy to be able to do it. So it's
and your
oneness.
joy in serving always shows, Julie. Thank you. Kat Llewellyn. Okay, no problem. You can make your way up while I introduce you. Kat told me that the first day that she came here, she knew she was home. And Kat also is very proud of the fact that she was able to work through her associate degree at Butte College. That was a great accomplishment for her. And Kat has served in this community in many ways, taken many classes, had lots of conversations with many of you. Many of my great conversations with Kat ended up in the kitchen because she was serving, and we would have some great conversations. And Kat is a musician, a singer, and a flautist. And she's working on certification to become a heart math, do they say consultant, or what do they call that?
It's an ad facilitator right now.
It's a facilitator?
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's a lot to that.
Okay. And the heart math facilitator, we just finished reading the book, The Heart Math Solution. And there are some tools in there to help open your heart and to become in greater coherence in your being. And I know we're going to do a workshop on that sooner or later. And so it's great that, and I know there's some others in the audience who have also been a heart math facilitator. Kat is now, as I mentioned earlier, going to be leading our Law of Attraction since our practitioner, Andy Tureen, moved to Washington with Maggie. Many of you know Andy and Maggie. So we lost Andy, but I appreciate that Kat is willing to step in. And so Kat, what does it mean to be of service to our spiritual community?
Okay, well, for me, it means fun. I get to be my authentic self. I get to give, and giving is the only thing I feel like I know how to do. I mean, all my life, I sing, so that would be the giving. Mm-hmm. But I could never find my place. And the world, dog eat dog world. And she's right, when I walked in the door here the first time, I saw, well, it's not here anymore, there was a V up here. And I used to go to Unity Center back in Walnut Creek.
It's to the left of you.
Oh,
Look
okay,
at that.
all right. But I saw that, I walked in and I went, God, and I could just feel it. And so I think it was Sherry who was in the office that day. Where's Sherry? Yeah. And I came in and I asked for a member application, even though I hadn't even come here for church. I had been going to the Law Attraction meeting with Lisa. But from day one, it's like I started working the kitchen, and I do the dishes, which is the cutting the wood, chopping the wood thing. So doing dishes, I had an illness I had that I had to move through, and so dishes was like meditation for me. I worked the Tory shelter. I just love to love. So, yeah, if you want to have fun and laugh, I think John and me had a treatment the other day, and it was
Beautiful.
fun, just
Love
joy. I get to be in joy, so.
Perfect. Love to love.
Yes,
Oh, that's
very much.
beautiful.
And I like to rock and roll.
And rock and roll. Crystal Lively. I like her last name. Lively is definitely what she is. Again, another creative soul and entrepreneur. Crystal worked here when I actually came here, being the spiritual co-director. And she was doing marketing and graphics, social media, web pages. And she's now teaching with practitioner Monty Cameron an online science of mind class called Revealing Wholeness. So she dove right into the electronic side, especially as a practitioner in sharing and teaching and assisting in that area. All these women have grown spiritually significantly, and I know that's true for you, Crystal. And I always felt like you knew there was a light within you, and that you still continue to line yourself up behind the power that is within. And I know that you also have had quite a journey, and of course we get to share that when we're together in practitioner classes. But just want to say I honor and I see your light. I know who you truly are. And so what does it mean to you to be of service to our community?
Well, if you know me at all, I'm pretty much one day at a time. And today, even 1 hour at a time. So I hadn't really thought about this question much because I was all about my meditation this morning. But to me, being of service is being present it's being open, and it's just being there for whatever appears. So I'm kind of in a changing place in my life. My 2 boys have moved out, so I call myself a budding empty nester. And so I'm just kind of opening myself up to what's next. And this is part of it, So I'm here to serve, but I haven't necessarily said this and this and this and this exactly. But when something comes up, I say yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, and the class was a big one to swallow, so I
Yeah.
appreciate you choosing to take that.
yeah, it spoke to me, and just as I saw there were open spots for meditation, and it's not something I've ever done much of, but I'm like, okay, here we go. So
yeah, and beautiful.
I'm just listening to my heart and listening to what's needed or asked for, and here I am. So thank you.
You bet. And what I hear you also say is you are open to being present in the present, which is where the sacredness is. So thank you. Okay. All right, and now I will ask Vicki Lopes to please come forward. Now, originally, unbeknownst to me, Vicki had already been a licensed practitioner, but I didn't know that. And she was actually a licensed practitioner in the Central Valley, and then was taking care of family outside of the area, and so her license expired. And fast forward, Vicki and her husband Alan moved to Paradise to be closer to family, and they joined us here at the center. And I started to know her and Alan based on becoming a part of the choir family, which of course is always a very jovial, connected family. And then the campfire came. And they lost their home, as well as their other family that they were taking care of lost their home. And then we started offering something called holistic healing on Saturdays. And Vicki and Alan said, yes, we'll do that, not knowing that she was a Reiki healer. And so on Saturdays, we were open for a few hours, offering to all of Chico some free holistic healing. And it wasn't until even after all of that that I learned that Vicki had been a practitioner. And then she became interested in renewing her license with us, which again is an honor and a blessing. She currently serves on our stewardship council and has been a very strong Save a Team coordinator, meeting monthly with all of the Save a Team leaders that we have here at the center. And we are so blessed to have you. And so grateful, even through the life adventure, to have both of you here. So what does it mean to you to be of service to our spiritual community?
Well, you used the word grateful. And first of all, that's what I'm feeling right now, and with a capital G. And for me, being of service with our spiritual community is the microcosm of being of service to the world. It starts in my heart, and I come with an open heart. And when I have something that seems to be standing in the way of that open heart, it reminds me of a little story that I once heard where someone touched this special tree before they walked into the room of the doorway of the house and left whatever it was there to be able to realize the open heart. And so being present with an open heart allows me to actually listen, center myself, really hear beyond the words and observe. And I've found that my intuition has become more keen, and I'm listening to it more. And with that, I'm being of service in ways that I don't even realize, expressed or unexpressed by others, and that it really is such a huge service to myself. And so with the oneness that we've been talking about, there is only connection beyond what even I can even imagine. And when something resonates, I just hop into it, like doing the Reiki, singing. We joined the choir before we joined the center because the priority was to find a center that we knew we wanted to be, and a center, CSL,
but to be in a place where we can sing and bring forward the joy, and knowing that the vibrations of the music really touch people in each unique way. And so I'm touched in unique ways by each and every person that I come in touch with, and I remind myself to live this when I don't. And Alan is my lovely husband, Alan. He gets to know sometimes the real me that helps me remind myself.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yes. And so I'm just grateful for our community, and I'm grateful for my life as it unfolds and growing to be the wise presence that we really all are. So thank you.
Thank you. If I can get these candles to actually light. There we go. So we believe in oneness. I am going to be speaking the Declaration of Principles. And as I speak the Declaration of Principles, I'll ask each of you one at a time in the order that I introduced you to come down and light your candle from the oneness candle, and then ask you to take your place. So we will go first when I start the declaration. How did I do this next? So the following is a list of the major principles upon which science of mind is based. Each principle is followed by a short declaration from an essay entitled What I Believe, written by our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes. One God. I believe in God, the living Almighty. Come on down. One indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. This one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. The manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. Principle number 2, everything is spirit. I believe in the incarnation of the Spirit in all beings, and that every person is an incarnation of the one Spirit. I'll have you go back to there, and then we'll rotate. Personal immorality. I believe in the eternity, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul forever and ever expanding. Heaven on earth. I believe that the kingdom of God is within us, and that I experience this kingdom to the degree that I become conscious of it. Personal freedom. I believe that the ultimate goal of life is to be a complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. Unity of all life. I believe in the unity of all life, and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. Personification of God. I believe that God is personal to all who feel this indwelling presence. Personal revelation. I believe in the direct revelation of truth through the intuitive and spiritual nature of humanity, and that any person may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God. Universal law. I believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, which is the law of God. And I am surrounded by this creative mind, which receives the direct impress of my thoughts and beliefs and acts upon it. Spiritual healing. I believe in the demonstration of healing through the power of this mind. Personal power. I believe in the control of conditions through the power of this mind, with a capital M. Goodness of God. I believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of life to all. And lastly, self-determination. I believe in my own soul, my own spirit, and my own destiny, for I understand that my life is God. I will be speaking to them and to you through the next few minutes here. Have to look at the light in your eyes. I know it's been a journey together, and it's been wonderful and beautiful. And I'm so wonderful to be able to culminate that here today as you went through your testing and your practicing, and now even with your pods of practitioners. You have each chosen a pathway in life that is and ever shall be enriched and expanded by wonderful spiritual discoveries. To serve as a professional practitioner is to lead those who look to you for spiritual guidance into an assurance and an acceptance of the wholeness and perfection of their being in spirit, mind, body, and soul. For this work, you are well prepared, as you have been certified in your knowledge of the principles of science of mind and how to apply those principles through the law of cause and effect. You have dedicated yourself to spiritual practice and an ever-deepening faith to know your true self and that truth for others. Your understanding of these science of mind principles, the power of your healing presence, your spiritual mind treatments, your compassionate and loving heart will be called upon by those who look to you for living the demonstration of our teaching and our practice of spiritual healing. You have been licensed as professional practitioners of the science of mind by the authority of the Centers for Spiritual Living Home Office. Therefore, we ask that you pledge your alignment and allegiance to this teaching, to its spiritual practices, and to the center in whose name you will perform your healing art to serve others. Your vows. Do you accept the declaration principles read earlier and promise to live by the Center's Science of Mind principles to the best of your ability?
I do.
Do you give your loyalty and support to the Centers for Spiritual Living, Chico?
I do.
Do you agree to abide by the policies and regulations which govern a professional practitioner for the Center of Spiritual Living?
I do.
Do you dedicate yourself to faithful meditation and diligent study in order that you may continue to expand your consciousness and your professional practice?
I do.
Do you dedicate yourself to do your utmost to reflect at all times the spirit of truth?
I do.
Do you commit yourself to absolute confidentiality and privacy, keeping the identity and confidences of those who come to you for help, unless you have received explicit consent to do otherwise, or unless following the legal rules of a mandated reporter?
I do.
As a loyal and supporting member, will you uphold and support this center and the Centers for Spiritual Living through your spiritual mind treatment? By having lit their candle, the candle as one symbolizing the understanding of our oneness, our connection, and the light of spirit that lives and expresses through each one of them and through each one of you. These vows of dedication, which you have affirmed, are the outward expression of an inner dedication and consecration to the indwelling presence, which you have already made. Through this act, you place yourself in a very special relationship to spirit and to others by knowing the truth of your oneness. Your mission is to recognize the deep and abiding harmony and wholeness at the center of everything, to see through the existing appearances and circumstances, and to affirm the truth that sets each person free. In the fulfillment of your mission, you have the same assurance expressed by the great Master. It is the Father within who doeth the work. So you're charged to do your spiritual practice every day to further awaken, to deepen your connection to spirit and truth, to stay open at the top, to expand your consciousness of the sacredness of your being, and to be the light and love that you are, and lead with that light and love. The infinite in spirit empowers you in all that you do, grants you the strength and wisdom to faithfully fulfill these vows. So by the authority invested in me as an ordained minister for the Center of Spiritual Living, I honor, celebrate, and confirm your roles as practitioners of the Center for Spiritual Living, Chico. It is now my privilege to present to all of you, CSL Chico members, board, and practitioners. I present your newly licensed and now installed practitioners. Please join me in deep appreciation of these beloveds, and I invite you to take an opportunity to get to know them better so that they may lift you up. Okay, where did I put the fifth one? Right here. I knew it was you. I knew you knew. Beautiful. Hang on just a second here. Okay. All right. One more thing. Didn't know it takes so long to undo them, did you? I bless these ribbons, these roses, and the stoles, and bestow them upon you to represent and remind you of your vows as you serve this community and humanity. Okay. So I want to officially move into a moment of consciousness and awareness, if everybody will join me. And again, with that laser focus, surround these practitioners, knowing that each one of them is a light and a love, an expression of God in action here. And I'm knowing that as we move forward as the Center for Spiritual Living, Chico, that we are blessed by the consciousness, the expanded consciousness of each of these individuals, knowing that as they move forward into this community and the community beyond, that the power of their healing presence makes a difference and allows for others to understand their greater truth of the love that they are, the peace that they are, the power that they are. And so I'm knowing that this is good, that each one of them is blessed. I let it be so, and together we say, and so it is. All right, you can blow out your candle and take your seat. Yes, the COVID way of blowing out a candle. That was not practiced, obviously. All right. All right. Next, we will be installing 2 staff ministers. So I'd like to ask Reverend Andy to please come forward. And as Reverend Andy comes forward, give you the microphone. So Reverend Andy and I have actually known each other for quite some time. When did you first become a practitioner?
100 years ago. I don't
It feels like.
no, it was about probably 20 years ago.
Okay, so 2001-ish?
Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
So I became a minister in 2020. So I knew it was somewhere around, or 2000, in other words, 21 years ago.
Yeah.
And, you know, we obviously, while we didn't have ministerial classes together, we attended a lot of the Religious Science International, International for Centers for Spiritual Living, and Centers for Spiritual Living conferences.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's how many times our organization has changed names. And I don't know about you, but I actually remember sitting with you having lunch at the last one when we were together. We were outside and had a great conversation, and little did we know that the campfire would come. And Reverend Andy was spiritual director, for those of you that don't know, at CSL Paradise. Of course, the center was lost in that fire, as well as Andy and his wife's own home. And of course, Reverend Andy took some time to take a step back and to heal from that, which I so honor. And I was very happy to invite Andy to be speaking for us on our rotation of speakers, and to have him join us in that way. And I have to say I was even more overjoyed to have him join us here as a staff minister. You have such a depth, a feeling of peace and love exude from you, and the wisdom of the many. I know that you follow different traditions, and I know that in your everyday work, Andy also works full-time as a counselor for people in recovery. That's probably not your official title. What is your official title?
I'm a counselor.
Counseling, okay. So I know that, Andy, based on who you are, just by the power of your presence, that you are making a difference for those that enter recovery. And I'm sure that sometimes you may get people who tell you that, but while I don't get to experience that with you on a daily basis, I just know that that's true based on who you are and how you present yourself.
Thank you.
So I just want you to know that you are a true blessing, and I'm so glad to have you here as a staff minister. And so tell us, what does it mean to be of service to our spiritual community?
The best way I can put this is years ago on the Peanuts comic strip, and I'm probably not going to get the dialogue right on this because I was just sitting here today thinking about this because I was going to say something else, but this seems more appropriate. Pigpen was in the group of kids, and one of them said, "Oh my God, I can't believe how dirty and filthy and dusty you are all the time, and you have no self-respect," or whatever. And I believe it was Linus, as I remember it, says something to the effect, "Do you realize that as the winds have blown the dust of the earth all over the place, that he carries with him the footsteps of the Buddha, Jesus, Lao Tzu, and all the great philosophers?" And Pigpen, in the first couple panels, had this look of shame on his face, and at the end he was beaming. And that's what I want to be. I want to be the voice that knows the truth. Everything that lies within the dirt and below the dirt. And so in working with people in recovery, one of the things that you have to do, I think, is to walk the path of trying to be a shame buster, because shame is the great culprit in addiction, and so I want to be a shame buster.
Wow, beautiful. We'll come back to you. Thank you, Andy. Beautiful. And now Reverend Connie. I don't know if I need notes for Connie. For those of you that don't know Connie Asquith, Reverend Connie, she has been here since almost the beginning of this center back in the early 80s. She is a connector of people, and I know you're proud of that and do that with such grace. She literally is a pillar of our center. She's a natural-born leader. She has fingerprints all over this place. She has been a part of the choir, a wonderful subfamily of the Center for Spiritual Living, and she had taken practitioner classes a long time ago. Do you even remember what year?
It was like in the early 90s. Oh.
In the early 90s?
Early 90s.
Okay. And the choir called her the chaplet, for those of you that weren't a part of the choir. So being a practitioner and moving through training there, she's been a part of the board, most recently a leader in the COVID team so that we're all safe, part of the design team, special events, and she's got a special touch, knows just how things look. I love that. So she's been a practitioner for many years and is now co-leading the practitioners with Monty Cameron. And it then came upon her before COVID that although she had taken ministerial classes probably in late 90s is my guess, but she had never executed the external, final paperwork and training that needed to happen. And she finally got the call, although I think Spirit was probably knocking on your door for a while. And she finally decided to answer, but this was in January pre-COVID, and she had to travel and got to meet other new ministers, and then, succeeded in getting her ministerial license, but then COVID happened, and we weren't meeting. So it may seem like a long culmination, but I love your moderation, and I think some of it has to do with, again, Spirit knocks for you, and you contemplate and you meditate, and when it's clear, then you move forward. And so what does it mean to you to be of service to our community?
Well, what just came in hearing what you said, it's so great that my core belief is that everything happens in divine order. And even though my order was a little jumbled up and kind of backwards, it absolutely worked out that at the right time, I'm in the right place, and of course, with the right people. So when I was thinking about service, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And it's really interesting that as a human being, when you give something, it's like you lose it. You give it away. But on the spiritual realm, when you give something is indeed the only way you receive it, because there's only one of us here. So selfishly, you all, I'm giving to you because I get it all back for me. And serving with, for so long, and you're all my family. I mean, my family's scattered everywhere. So to have, just every time I come into a Zoom class and I see your faces, it just melts me. So it is my joy. It is my gift to myself to be able to serve all of you.
Beautiful. Thank you. So for everybody here, ministers first become professional practitioners and therefore have been deeply committed, again, taking at least 2 years of classes before practitioner training, 2 years of practitioner training, and then 2 years of ministerial training before finally doing the final process, which Connie had done in January. So they're committed to their spiritual practice and expanding their consciousness. They must be licensed and recognized as a practitioner before they take those classes, ministerial classes. And they also must be licensed as a minister through CSL. And then after 3 years of ministerial service, a minister may apply and request to be ordained, which means they become a minister for life. Staff ministers are not paid, and we have several of them here. They are paid by their clients for prayer and counseling sessions. Again, don't let that stop you from approaching them for support. They're paid for the Sunday lessons that they give and for the majority portion of classes and workshops that they teach. Besides being practitioners, each have additional responsibilities in filling their ministerial roles. They lead by example in all that they do, connecting with each of you to support you in your highest good, doing spiritual mind treatment for the center. They speak, teach, provide ministerial counseling, compassionate care, perform ceremonies, could be weddings, memorial services, and other sacred ceremonies. They may lead projects or groups or activities for the ongoing education and spiritual development for this congregation and beyond. Ultimately, they serve the mission of this center. And the mission of this center is to provide spiritual education, tools, and practices that uplift hearts, expand minds, and transforms lives for a better world. I will ask Andy and Connie to please light their candle from the same oneness. Stay closer. And of course, I have some vows, questions for you. Do you so consecrate yourself to your ministry, understanding your sacred role?
I do.
Will you do your utmost at all times to reflect the Christ consciousness and or Buddha nature within in all that you think, say, and do?
I do.
Do you dedicate yourself to be constantly aware of the spirit within all people, and that you will only see the perfect spiritual person, perfect in mind, body, and spirit?
I do.
Do you promise to minister faithfully and lovingly to the people now committed to your charge, and to ever seek to be an example of moderation, patience, and loving kindness?
I do.
You are all the voice of this